Hey, what's going on? Mr. Tony's Hip Hop School. I ain't went nowhere. Been gone, been doing this, been doing that, but we ain't went nowhere. I've been thinking about doing just a music school instead of a hip hop school because I think a lot of our music, a lot of artists have not been celebrated the way they should be. I mean, I love music. I love hip hop. I love jazz. I love R&B. I love house music. It's just so much music that has been put out and it's never really celebrated the way it should be, in my opinion. But what this subject will be about is old school hip hop needs to be revered. I've been watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe either. I've been watching a lot of videos, people talking about people that's been inside, has been in the music industry, and talking about how things went behind the scenes and how some things were pretty weird. But I was thinking, like, there's a lot of artists through all that still was great, still made great music. I don't understand why people. I don't. This is going to tie into hip hop too, but I don't understand why it's not revered and it's not celebrated the way it should, because a lot of that music was great. I mean, like for me, I'm a very spiritual person now. Very. And the reason why I'm spiritual is because of Grand Puba, KRS-One. I mean, you could kind of say Brand Nubian. Grand Puba was with Brand Nubian. You could say them, Tribe Called Quest. In some respect, Wu-Tang. Because if you really listen to their lyrics, I mean, I really have to give props to KRS-One and Grand Puba. A lot of people don't even know who Grand Puba is. But KRS-One really is the one that really got me started, because he used to talk about Malcolm X. He used to talk about the food we eat. He used to talk about white supremacy. He used to talk about race relations. And it sounded cool. It sounded good. I mean, he talked about a lot of stuff. And I mean, that's when you know the music is powerful, when it changes. When, first of all, it gets you to look into people like Malcolm X. It gets you to look into the system that we live under. Those of you that don't know, we do live under a system that one holds a lot of black people back. And I know there's some people that's going to say, "Oh, ain't nothing holding you back but yourself." But there's a system in place that governs over us. And KRS-One is one of the main. He's really the dude. But then came along Grand Puba. Well, Grand Puba came out in '88. KRS-One came out in '86. Grand Puba came out with his group Masters of Ceremony. That was in '88. But I always listened to Grand Puba. I always liked his flow. I always liked the truth in his rhymes. I always liked that dude, man. And so that kind of woke me up to a lot of things as I got older. Now, you figure in the 90s, I came out of the service in 92. I was in a war. I was in the first Gulf War. Came back, and the 90s was the shit. 90s was, I mean, if you young, you black, you was drinking 40s, you was running the streets, you was chasing women. If you was into hip hop back then, you was in your 20s, you was black, You was running women. You was drinking 40s. You was going clubbing. You might have been in the streets. We won't say exactly what. You know what I mean? Um, there should be a documentary about the 90s because the 90s and hip hop go hand in hand, baby. The 90s was the shit. Like, when you live in it, you don't even realize it. But then when the years go by and you think back, you like, man, a lot of us could write books. That's how fucking, as they say, popping that shit was. But I'm getting off topic. But hip hop is not revered like other music, like rock and roll. It's not revered, man. And I know why. Of course, it's because it's black. Of course, it was a lot of thuggery or so-called thuggery, which a lot of rappers ain't like that, for real, for real. They just fucking actors. You know what I mean? That know how to write rhymes and know how to tell stories. That's basically what hip hop is. I mean, you got a lot of dudes that was in the streets. You do. You got a lot of dudes that was doing a lot of foul shit, but for the most part, most of them wasn't. You know what I mean? It was just about having fun and partying and, you know, motherfucker that was better than this dude, this dude from this area better than that dude from that area. That kind of shit. That's all it was. But I loved it. And I still listen to that shit. I listen to all that. So the thing is that any of you that's watching this, the few that are watching this, you need to go back to the 80s and 90s hip hop and listen to the majority of that. First of all, the way the music was put together, everybody's game was stepped up because you didn't want to be outshined by another person. You had great female MCs. You had great groups. You had great MCs. You had great New York rappers. You had great West Coast rappers. You had great South rappers. You had great Chicago rappers. You had great Philly rappers. I mean, Jersey rappers. You had great Jersey rappers. And you know another place we don't talk about? Virginia. Like, motherfuckers don't even think about Timbaland, Pharrell, Missy, Aaliyah. Even though Aaliyah wasn't hip-hop, but Aaliyah made some songs that was hip-hop. Or had hip-hop in them. You know what I mean? Nobody talks about Virginia. Like, Pharrell is one of the greatest producers of all time in my book. I mean, if you go back and listen to his catalog of music, Pharrell was the shit. Neptunes, then by itself, he was the shit, man. He made a lot, man. He made some bangers. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'll listen to some of that shit and I'm like, yo, I forgot he made this. Yo, this is the shit. He made a lot of Jay-Z shit. Yes, I hate to say it. I think Jay-Z's the greatest rapper of all time. I know there's people like, what? But I don't think there's too many people that's going to disagree with that. And I was a Jay-Z fan. I mean, like now, fuck no, I don't like Jay-Z. Because he too caught up in that bullshit. But back then, like particularly the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, yeah, I did like a lot of his shit. But I just was more of a Nas dude. I was way more a Nas guy. Love Nas, man. He was an intelligent rapper, man. And like I always say, he was one of them type of dudes when he say something in a rhyme, you had to rewind that shit and listen to it again. Like, what the fuck he just say? What was that? That's how Nas was, man. He was a deep thinking rapper. That's what I liked about him, man. But he started like getting a little commercial And see, I'm sorry, man. That commercial shit, I understand they do that to make more money. I get it, but it waters down the product, man. All that commercial shit, you trying to appease everybody and you not staying true to the shit. I don't like that shit, man. It ain't too many commercial hip hop songs I like. I like raw street shit. You know what I mean? All that commercial shit, I ain't with it, but I understand it's a business and shit. But I really honestly wish that a lot of hip hop wasn't commercial. All that commercial shit like Big. I'll give you an example, Biggie. Now, a lot of people gonna say they still liked it because it still was a party song and all that, but all his commercial songs I didn't like. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Because that's not fucking creative. You're taking somebody else's shit and putting it in your shit. Because it's like a sing-along joint. You know what I mean? It's like a jingle. So it's like catchy. You know what I mean? I don't like that. And Puffy was big for that. He be taking other people's songs and rapping over the shit. That shit corny to me. I don't like that. But that's like commercial shit. But now, the what with Method Man, that's some street shit. You know what I mean? I like hearing that type of stuff, man. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And I know it's going to be people that say, oh, what's wrong with Biggie, Biggie, Biggie? Can't you see? I know people going to say that. That was the shit. What the fuck you talking about? But in my world, nah. You want that one or the what? I want the what. That's what I like, man. You know what I mean? All that. But I understand they do it to make money. I got it. I got you. But I just think that I'm talking about black people right now. Black people, we need to revere the old school a whole lot better than what we've been doing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you got to be fucking going crazy when you see if Redman walking down the street, you ain't got to kiss his fucking feet. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, we got to protect this shit because this is that 80s and 90s was a great fucking time for hip hop, especially in my opinion, the golden era was 86 to 94. And really, it was 86 to 92. But there still was some good shit in the rest of the 90s. And there still was some good shit in the early 2000s. I would say up to about 2004. But then after 2004, man, in my opinion, hip-hop started going down the tubes. Really, hip-hop started going down the tubes around 2002. Maybe even the late 90s. Probably like 98, 99. That shit started like, because it was getting too corporate. And I could tell the difference because the shit was just too, like you would have artists that, like say for instance, like Busta Rhymes and shit. Now he made a lot of commercial hits. But he still made street shit too. But I think like in the early 2000s, he just started changing up a little bit. He was more like, that's why his voice is all fucked up now. He all sound like a damn truck. That's why he sound like that, because he all that screaming and yelling and shit. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's really his niche. But he just got a little too commercial. You know what I mean? But you know, Busta is one of my favorite of all time. You know, I think the next video I do, I'm going to do a roll call off the top of my head. I'm not writing nothing down. I'm just going to say I'm just going to keep naming. Just like in Do the Right Thing, when Samuel L. Jackson, he was the DJ, and he was doing like a roll call of all the great R&B and jazz artists and celebrities and shit that were black. I'm going to do the same thing with hip hop. But I'm going to start adding some R&B in there too, because, you know, I got to add my man in there, Teddy Riley. Man, Teddy Riley. This is what I'm saying. Like, nobody talks about these people. But when it's rock music, you know, these motherfuckers go crazy. Oh, yeah, John Lennon, man, and fucking Billy Joel, dude. And like, come on, man. That's how we supposed to be with hip hop. But anyway, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. I see you in the next video.